to Apollo City Comics. I'm Brandon.
I'm David.
And we're here today to discuss the Nolan trilogy. I don't know. Well, what other name does it have?
Yeah, I think that's the best name. The Dark Knight trilogy, I think it's also called.
You know, well, how'd you like the films? When was the last time you watched these three films? And how do you feel now after watching them? Give us post.
I'll go in order then. Batman Begins, I saw 10 years ago. I was in high school last time I saw it. I've seen it quite a few times, but it had been a long time. And it's a really good origin story. And I think it sets up the whole universe of Dark Knight really well. I'll get more into it, but Dark Knight I saw in theaters like the day it came out. I remember we were like stoked. I had like bought a Joker t-shirt. I was so excited.
Nice.
It was great, man.
Yeah,
it was a great experience. I saw it with a bunch of friends. It was just crazy. The movie's just like monumental.
Yeah.
And then that one I've seen a lot, like compared to the other ones. I've seen that one the most. And a while ago, I don't even remember what it was for the channel, but I had to edit something where I had to take some stuff from Dark Knight. And I'm pretty sure it was just a joke to get it frank because he hates Batman. I was just like cutting Batman into segments. So yeah, I've seen part of it. And then Dark Knight Rises, I saw once in theaters. When it was in theaters, I've never seen it again. And I wasn't crazy about it at the time. But I like it more now. I think it... Well, I don't know. What about you? Give us your teaser info before we get like super deep into some of these.
I mean, I saw all of these in theaters probably well more than once. I probably saw Dark Knight Rises the least amount, probably twice.
Yeah.
But I saw Batman Begins like 8 times in theaters.
Oh, really?
I just saw it like 4 days in a row, I remember.
Whoa.
And I've seen that one the most for one.
Okay.
And I've seen that one bits and pieces more recently as well.
Okay.
Dark Knight, I saw a good amount of time. Also, I love Batman Begins because I loved the video game.
Oh yeah,
it was
game
such
was
a
cool,
good game.
man.
Such
it was
a
a really
good
cool game.
The best Batman game at the time that had come out.
Yeah.
Because like we talked about before, all those earlier games were just so horrendous,
Really
and then you
bad.
got to this one, you're like, dang, this is sick.
Yeah, in a weird way, just not to go too off, but a lot of stuff in that game is kind of picked up into the Arkham games.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially the stealth stuff, yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Same page here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then Dark Knight was great. I remember really liking it as a kid when it came out, and then Dark Knight Rises, I didn't get it. I didn't really care for it. Maybe that 3-hour runtime kind of got to me as a kid, possibly. I saw some elements of comics I had read previously, No Man's Land being the primary one. Phenomenal read. It's a chunk of your life, but it's so worth it. And No Man's Land was great when I first read it as a kid. It was one of the first Batman stories because it had every Batman villain. You had Zsasz in there. You had Poison Ivy and Clayface and everybody.
Cool.
It was everyone, and it was kind of, you learned Gotham because it was controlled by territories. So seeing Batman Begins and have him reference the Narrows, something I hadn't seen since I read No Man's Land, stuff like that, like the city of Gotham, because I was always immersed in the city of Gotham,
I think all of these movies too make Gotham feel a little more real.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially because it's a real city. I mean, all these other movies, they've kind of had like trickery,
sets,
digital sets, miniatures, whatever you go with.
But choosing Chicago is perfect, beautiful for it. It
really is.
Is it Chicago in Dark Knight Rises as well?
I don't know if it's still Chicago, but I know Batman Begins was filmed in Chicago, so I would think
the Dark
that they
Knight
would keep
for sure.
it. Which is weird because I always assumed that Gotham is supposed to be New York, and that Metropolis is supposed to be Chicago. So it's kind of funny that they're filming, or maybe I'm wrong.
When we look at crime, I mean, it's definitely
Well, I guess that's true too. They need Batman a little bit more.
I'm really curious. I want to look this up real fast. But you know what? I didn't ever, growing up, I was just like, yeah, it's cool. It's a great origin story. I've always loved that. I always liked The Dark Knight, and it was a good representation of Batman, I always felt.
Okay.
And then I thought Dark Knight Rises really fell off the wagon, and I didn't think it was that great. But, rewatch. I just got the box set on eBay for a good little score. It came with the Batmobiles and everything. I should have brought them. But
how dare you?
Rewatching them all, I loved every single film. And I thought they all were an essential part of storytelling. And I love how we cut out less digital effects, especially on someone like the Joker. There were no digital effects. And keeping it raw, but like still an impossible story. You know what I mean? Like keeping it grounded and giving us that vibe, but it's still like, this can never happen. You know what I mean? I thought that was a perfect approach.
It kind of makes you think like, well, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like maybe this could... It's definitely the most believable version of Batman. Which, after watching these, and I had watched the original quadrilogy, however you want to say it, I watched those within the last year with Michelle, just because she was like on a kick. That's like the Batman she loves, those movies. Um, and those are, I mean, they have their ups and downs for sure, but those feel a lot like a cartoonier version of Batman right from the get-go. Everything is like really cartoony, like even the Joker's portrayal in hey cat, get down from there. Sorry, I have I have a cat that's trying to jump on our recording laptop right now. Um, the Batman Nolan movies are just so like real. Even the fact that each one of them has this big thing about organized crime.
Yeah.
All of them have like a real gang or something,
Mm-hmm.
and it just feels like kind of like a crime drama, like a Martin Scorsese film a little bit. But then it's got Batman in it. It's really it's really
great.
interesting. Yeah.
It's great that, I'll say this now before I forget. What's so remarkable about this film is that it pulled from a lot of the greatest comics. You see a lot of Frank Miller's work in there. Year One was very prominent in the origin story aspect, and then
Yeah, I could see
especially when you
that.
get to Catwoman and Rises, that blonde girl that's with her, that looks just like the Holly character that would hang out with Selena Kyle.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, it has to be Holly in a sense, you know what I mean? Or at
Yeah.
least they pulled direct inspiration from that Holly character. So that's a cool little Easter egg there for comic book fans. Also, when you read Frank Miller's The Dark Knight, I mean, basically the Bat Bible, it's
Yeah.
kind of turned into at this point. It starts off as a crime drama and it ends in nuclear winter. Like you get a 3-act
yeah,
story
okay.
right there.
Yeah.
And Batman just elevates and elevates and elevates. He goes from this, bright, blue and gray suit with the yellow symbol to wearing gray and black, and he's super, dark, and he just, he's been away for 10 years already, and then we jump into the story.
Yeah.
A lot of those elements, that in between time between Night and Rises, the 8-year gap, it does start as a crime drama, and you literally end in practically nuclear winter at that, and it's insane. It's a great way. And just like how Batman fought Superman in Dark Knight Returns, here he is fighting a man of strength, Bane, in the middle of the
Yeah.
street like he would have Superman.
Yeah.
And cool little comparisons. Obviously they drew from the Nightfall storyline, from breaking his back
Breaking
and
his
all
back,
that.
yeah, that's-
Super cool. I got to read it still. It's a dense. You got to need some time for that one. But they also pulled from a lot of the Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil stuff from the 70s, like the Shaman storyline. That's one of the first where Batman, we kind of see him outside of Gotham, and he's training, and he's in the Himalayas or something, very similar to Batman Begins. The sword fight between Ra's and his first appearance in Batman, I mean, we see this in the films as well. No Man's Land, as we said, how it becomes corrupt, and you could even tell because Selena Kyle in Rises does mention not in my turf. Like, she's already organized an area, and it's just super remarkable at that point. One of the biggest storylines it pulled from that I've never read that I need to look into is one that's called The Man Who Falls.
Okay, I
And-
haven't even heard of that.
Yeah, right. It was just I think it's just like a one-shot type of thing. But it's like a 4-part storyline. But they pulled so much from that series, and it's not. And I think Denny O'Neil did write it. But I really got to look into that because it looks like even the
Yeah.
origin aspects they pulled straight from there and
Really?
threw them into the film.
That'd
Yeah.
be interesting. I didn't. I mean, I made some of the connections, like the Nightfall thing for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's so like obvious.
Oh,
But
the
that's
Batmobile,
really cool.
the Tumbler. When you look at the tank in Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller, you look at those tanks side by side, and
Yeah.
they went for that tank aspect.
Yeah, they definitely
that
did.
Burliness.
Which I think is really cool. Like it makes more sense than
Yeah.
Batman just having some like sleek car.
Some flashy type of thing. Yeah, you know what I mean?
It's way more like functional.
Yeah, exactly. But man, let's start with
Let's go to Batman
Batman
Begins. Let's get into it. Actually, I have something kind of funny about this. There's like a multi-level inspiration thing going on here that I read about. So Batman Begins, Christopher Nolan, before they started filming, called everyone together, like the whole cast and crew, for a private screening of Blade Runner.
Oh yeah,
And he was like, we're going to make this a Batman movie.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really
I
interesting.
love that. I read that.
Yeah,
it's
I thought that was
super
really
great.
cool. But there's also like...
You see those elements in the city, like shots and landscape and
Yeah,
feel,
totally.
Definitely.
It's
Yeah.
totally the same way. I thought this was kind of cool though, that the dark realism of Batman Begins inspired the makers of Casino Royale.
Oh,
and they were like, we need to reboot James Bond, and we want to do it this way.
well, he was also Nolan was a big Bond fan.
Oh,
He's
really?
super big Bond fan.
Ooh, a
Yeah.
Nolan Bond movie would be crazy. They should do that.
They should do that.
But I thought it was funny because Bond also becomes like kind of a comic character. When you look at how the Batman movies were going, it just got sillier and sillier.
Oh, yeah.
And the same thing happened in James Bond. I mean, Pierce Brosnan kind of course corrected it, but still, like by World Is Not Enough, it's super silly
It's
again.
super goofy. Yeah.
Yeah. Die Another Day is like so bad.
Yeah.
That was terrible. Anyway.
Until we get to, I really love sidetrack, but I really love the recent Bond movies. I'm really excited for
all the Daniel
last
Craig ones
installment.
are really
Solid,
good.
yeah.
Those are really. We should do some
stuff.
James Bond.
Warren Ellis wrote a really good series of it. I would love. You have some of it. I would love to. Read
yeah.
It.
Yeah.
Super down.
One thing I want to bring up about Batman Beyond, because like the beginning of the movie is a lot of going back and forth. They tell both origin stories at the same time, like Bruce Wayne losing his parents and also Batman, like, and how he became Batman. So we're jumping back between these two stories at the beginning.
We're growing the same man at once. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. The thing that I kind of have a gripe with this movie, it's really like my only big gripe, is that, and especially early on, you start seeing some of these fight scenes, and they're all filmed super close. Like so close that you can't even see like who he's punching. It's just like quick, like, and it almost seems like comic book panels or something, but it's disorienting. And I see it at the beginning of the movie, I'm like, I hope this isn't how it is, but the whole thing is like that. And I watched these movies out of order. I started with Dark Knight Rises because I knew it was the longest.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen it in a long time. I was like, I need to watch this. So when I went backwards, it was weird. Because Nolan's filmmaking becomes so much more refined. And you can tell, like, after one movie, he was like, okay, this is how I need to shoot a lot of this. Because Batman Begins is, like, a little bit rough around the edges.
Definitely. And it's crazy because he didn't have a lot under his belt before getting attached to Batman. He only had 3 movies under his belt, 3 major films.
Yeah.
So them throwing that chance of being like, man, we're going to give this guy our biggest character to reinvent the series was taking a gamble, you know? And I think that's where a lot of it, where you kind of see that tone switch, you know, once he gets more in depth and more into the character, how the character grows with his filmmaking at that point.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, Batman Begins as an origin story. They kind of cover the Jesus years of Batman that have never been touched in film or in the comics too much, you know? The training and the growth and what he goes through and endures. I think that's one of the coolest parts, because in year one, it's all about his training and him coming back from training. And you just see him like chopping down trees with, you know, high kicks and everything, and cool stuff like that. So I think bringing that element made us more understanding of the character than the previous films, especially when it comes to his motivation, because he's really looking for something. He's real lost. He has a goal. He has an idea of what he wants to do and become, but he doesn't know how to execute it yet.
Yeah.
And we see him, you know, with this vision and then finding a way to grasp it and execute it, which is crazy. You know, we don't see that in a lot of like origin movies, even still.
And not to get too ahead of it, but it's also cool because in this series, you really get to see the entire, like, all of Batman. You know what I mean? From his birth, and you get the whole story. Like, you see him get older and smarter, and then, you know, an old man, and then he quits. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Oh, I did love how in that 8-year gap, you do see the gray hairs. I always love Bruce Wayne with gray hairs.
It looks really good. What's up? What's up, dog? We have an animal-filled room tonight. So let me see here. You know what we also get to, and this is important to point out, that Nolan sets up this whole Batman doesn't kill, and he puts it on like he's training with the League of Shadows to join, and he finishes all of his like rigorous training, and they want him to kill this guy, and Batman says like, I'm no executioner, like I refuse to do this. So it also like builds in Batman's motivation too.
Yeah.
Whereas in all these other movies, it's always just like, you know, Batman's been at it for years and this is his code and we're just all expected to know.
Yeah, exactly.
In this movie, it shows you like why he's like, I'm not down for this. Oh my gosh, my phone is ringing. Oops, I'm so unprofessional. Yep. At least I'm not texting during the show like you do. Anyway,
I'm looking up research.
Sure. There was something else I wanted to point out in here. Well, I'm not. Well, you know what? I'll skip ahead because this is a little bit further in the movie. I don't know if you want to go over the whole movie. I feel like most people know by now.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what I mean?
I'm not worried about spoilers or anything at this point. You know, every Batman movie shows Baby Bruce,
Yes.
And I wonder if we could rank the Baby Bruces real fast. Between this one, the one in Gotham, the Dark Knight. Oh well, yeah. Not Batman vs Superman and the Burden one.
Ooh. See, in the Burton one, they show that scene in every movie, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's always a different kid, too.
Yeah, it's always a different kid.
Gotham, I haven't watched it, everyone. And you know what? I just don't think it's that great. I'm sorry.
Well,
if
the
I get any kind of hate.
first 3 episodes aren't that great.
Yeah, but if I gotta watch more than 3 episodes to get into something, it's like, what am I doing
You
here?
gotta watch it.
The acting's bad.
Oh yeah, especially it's a Fox show.
I know, but still,
Yeah.
like I can't get.
It's like watching the CW shows. Like half of them.
And I don't watch any CW shows.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I tried watching
nice.
Supernatural for a while. I was like, this is way too much.
Yeah, just
like
it has that
teen
acting
drama.
set.
Yeah, it just seems like a shot for 14-year-olds. But anyways, I'm sorry,
I
I'm getting
think
way off here.
this Baby Bruce out of all of them is probably the worst one.
Oh, okay, I see that.
And
Yeah.
especially when the parents die, like I don't know if I could get that he's shocked, but there's like no emotion in that scene from Bruce. He's just sitting there, just staring out. Like he's literally not, there's no, or there's no emotion at all. And he's just sitting there and I'm like, dude, they just got shot. Like,
Yeah, that's
you know
true.
what I mean?
That didn't click to me. I really like the one in Batman Forever. And that scene of him
yeah.
like approaching the coffin and everything. That's really
Yeah,
good.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, almost all the Baby Bruces are better than this one.
Yeah. I didn't think about that, but you're kind of right. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
little flat.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But I do love how incorporated his parents were. Well, at least his father. We don't really get any Martha Wayne.
Yeah, there's
at
really
all.
no story about
She says
Martha
like
Wayne.
1 or 2 lines, and that's it. But Thomas Wayne, legit guy in this first one. And what's also a cool thing is that you see Gotham when Bruce was young, and they're on the monorail, and it's just beautiful. It's just
Oh, that's
gorgeous.
true,
It's
yeah.
new. It's fresh. It looks safe. And then you cut back, like 5 minutes later to Katie Holmes sitting there, and
Yeah.
it's just dingy and dirty and
Yeah.
grungy, and it's just like you do not want to be on that. It doesn't look like the future that the Waynes had set up for their kid. You know
And
what
they let you know in Batman Beyond too that
I mean? Batman Beyond.
Batman Beyond. That's so funny because I was searching Batman Begins earlier on my phone. I typed in Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
In Batman Begins, they also talk about like Ra's al Ghul or Deacon. What is that his name?
Ducard.
Ducard.
Henry Ducard, who is a real character in the
Oh,
comics.
really?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that.
I actually looked it up. First appearance was Detective Comics number 599. Came out in 1989. He had an appearance in the New 52 for a while, and just recently in Detective Comics. So they did bring him back.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
That's
and
really cool.
the most recent incarnation I feel looks like the most like Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they kind of like base it on Liam
Yeah,
Neeson?
yeah,
That's cool.
exactly. Yeah.
He plays like he's like the villain who you think is Ra's al Ghul, or you think the guy he's with is Ra's al Ghul. It's a little messy.
Well, when I first saw it, I was like, man, they're gonna use him as Raish. Like,
Yeah.
I guess I see it.
Yeah.
He's got the stash, which looks cool. I was like, I don't buy it yet, And then I see the other guy, and I'm like, oh man, that's Raish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least as close of an incarnation as they could got for that worldly, worldliness that they have.
Yeah, that's true.
But that twist, like finding out that that's just not Raish, but Raish is actually Liam Neeson, is cool. I was just like,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
what?
yeah.
It fits in perfectly. He is. I would have loved
like
to hear.
deception.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Being right there in the open the whole time and using Ducard as a alias and whatnot. So I mean, I loved it. I thought that was such
Yeah.
a cool thing to do.
Well-
I would have loved to hear a detective though. Maybe once or twice. But,
Detective.
yeah.
While we're on the name thing too, it's kind of funny because in the later movies they get really heavy into the Batman. They always call him the Batman.
Yeah.
In this first movie, they don't call him that at all. They just call him Batman. So I think that's really interesting. But also, he's not like a legend yet.
Yeah,
he's
still
just
putting
starting.
Yeah.
So he becomes like an entity. It's sort of interesting how they work things like that. Also, and I don't know if it's purposeful, but the bat voice that Christian Bale has that people always rag on, it's not nearly as heavy in the first one. It's almost just like him talking.
And the first one was my favorite, and
Yeah.
the bat voice was something I always despised, especially from these films. But rewatching it, I actually really enjoy it in all 3 films.
Yeah.
I think what bothers me the most, and I think that's what people make fun of the most, is that his mouth is always open. But I'm looking at his, and he's just standing there like open lips and everything.
Yeah.
But I literally don't think that he could breathe through his nose. I think the mask covers his nose right there, and he doesn't have like nostril holes.
Yeah.
And he can't breathe. And I'm like, man, if they would have fixed that,
That's true. It would have been
he
way
could have
more
been
natural.
straight mouthed, I mean, like
Yeah.
you see in the animated series, just solid, But here it looks like he's like,
He's like wheezing all the
yeah,
time.
exactly. And I think that's what ruined
Yeah.
that
Well,
that
in the
appearance.
later movies, it's really heavy too.
It's
Like
really
in Dark
heavy.
Knight Rises.
Well, even then, it's not as bad as I remembered it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because I really ragged on it and I really
Hmm.
couldn't stand it. But watching it, I was just like, you know what? I get it. And by the
Yeah.
time his voice gets really heavy, or like death metal-y, kind of
Hmm.
towards the end of Rises when he's fighting Bane. But I mean, he's fighting in the snow after recovering from everything,
Yeah.
and he's fighting Bane, and then he just got stabbed. So of course he's one gasping for air, two he's trying to push that voice out, and he's tired. You know what I mean? I could get
Yeah.
that. He's long-winded at that
Hmm.
point. But as a kid, I guess I just didn't like it.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
little bit off to me too. Although I put up with it. I wasn't too crazy about it. What else is going on in Batman? Oh, you know what else about Batman Begins? Cillian Murphy does a great Scarecrow, and it's also like the first time Scarecrow's ever been a live action character.
Yeah,
He's
and
never
they do
showed up
a
before
great
that.
job. I loved hearing Jonathan Crane and just seeing him. He just
Yeah.
looks like Jonathan Crane. You know what I mean?
He's also like he's in all three movies,
Yeah,
which is really weird.
which is super cool. And I love
Yeah.
how they do that. I love how in all these movies
Mm-hmm.
they have consistency of the lore. And how Batman's just fighting bad guys all the time, and they get out, and then he has to fight bad guys. It's
Yeah.
really on it when it comes to continuity to the comics.
Well, they're real sequels. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like things that happened in the previous movie influence the next one.
Mhm.
Whereas
And
most
things
superhero
tie
movies
together at the end,
are
you
not
know?
like that. Like the original 4 Batman movies,
Oh.
there might be a mention. Like, oh, what happened to what's her face? You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah, exactly.
And that's it.
That's it.
In this movie, there's like consequences that carry over, so that's really cool too.
And that Scarecrow mask, beautiful,
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah, the character design's awesome in the first movie. In all the movies, really,
all the
they all
movies.
look good.
The fear gas aspect was super cool.
They also do a really crazy like camera, like it's like a throbbing camera
Yeah.
and it gets all blurry and everything. And I love when the fear toxin sets in at the end and Crane sees Batman and he looks like a stone face, like a stone gargoyle.
Yeah,
All this like
and it
black
has like
stuff
yeah,
coming out of his mouth.
that, and they had an action figure like that too. I've always wanted it. It looks so cool.
I want that too. That's so cool.
And one of the biggest movies or not movies, one of the biggest comics they drew inspiration from was Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's The Long Halloween.
Okay.
And that's where you really get that crime, Maroni, Falcone aspect.
Oh, really?
And,
Okay.
that's how Batman started in the beginning. He was fighting mobsters. It was the 1930s. That's what was kind of going on. And just keeping that aspect throughout everything and being like, Batman fights street level crime. That's what he's meant for. These freaks and these psychopaths, they're tough for even him because you know what, he's just trying to beat some mob boss. He's just trying to go up against guns and money and just people. And now we're getting into like psychotic people with fear gas that he wasn't expecting. We have this immortal legend that he wasn't expecting, a serious like madman, and then like one of the strongest men ever, and then you have Catwoman that actually kind of picked up inspiration from Batman at that point, as a thief. But I mean, that outfit and her way of thinking, I mean, that's totally, she sees these madmen about, and of course, it's evolved and it's gotten to that point.
Yeah, well, that's a theme that I think a lot of Batman stories share. That Batman has kind of created the villains by being there, by having like they need, there needs to be something
What's
in
weird because
opposition.
Scarecrow was already in that position.
That is true, I guess.
Yeah.
Because Batman shows up after that.
And that's what I find interesting about the series Gotham, is that you're seeing it, Bruce grow up. You're seeing, some of those Jesus years that I always say, the missing time. But you see how Gotham is, as a city, is just filled with these madmen. Like, Batman didn't create them. These people were already building up and, already exploding and existing. And then Batman came about and he's like, I'm here to stop those madmen type of people. So it's a totally different route. Like, right away from Gotham, the show, he's going into fighting these freaks. And then in this one, it looks like they're kind of barely emerging.
Yeah.
But he's emerging with them at that same time.
That's
but
true.
he's going for mob bosses, not just there's Jokers and Mr. Freeze's out.
Well, Gordon says too at the end of the first movie that we've seen people like stepping up their game, and here's this crazy guy's calling card.
Yeah,
he's
which is
copying your
actually
theatrics.
a nod to Year One. That's how Year One ends.
That's true.
Yep.
That is how Year One
Yeah.
ends. That's so crazy.
Super great. A lot of Frank Miller.
Yeah. There's only one more little tidbit about Batman Begins. I even wrote Batman Beyond in my book. Batman Begins. That I am blanking on names right now. Christian Bale, the guy who plays
Yeah.
Batman, he read Arkham Asylum by Grant Morrison, and he loved the story and told his agent, "Hey, if they ever do another Batman movie, like I want you to get me in for an audition."
Oh, wow.
So he's like inspired by Grant Morrison's stories, and he was like,
That's
"You know what?
great.
I want to be Batman. There's like so much to do with the character," which I think is just crazy.
We gotta read that one.
Yeah, we should.
Arkham
I haven't read that one.
Asylum's
I'd be down.
Really, it's trippy. It's something else
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, and Arkham Asylum is in this movie too. That's another cool
Yes.
thing where you see
Mhm.
a location, although it's not that crazy like off on an island or on some hill, and it
No.
looks like a Victorian like torture chamber
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
This one is just a building. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But it's cool that they bring in so many locations from Batman into that thing.
The Batcave in this film, super interesting, and I like how they kind of gave it a history to
Yeah.
Bruce and all that too. Something
Like he
that has
finds the cave, builds it, and it's really cool. Oh, and it's like part of his childhood.
Yeah.
Like that's why he knows it.
and it's his. I guess his grandfather built it to rescue slaves and whatnot. And
That was also a really cool
Yeah,
thing too. That
like
there was
an
like a
actual-
built-in shaft because of the Underground Railroad.
Yeah, exactly,
And it also
yeah.
just makes the Wayne family just seem so cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, the Wayne family just cares about people.
well, I mean, that's one of the. It's gonna stray a little bit off the topic, but you know, there's been a lot of discussion about, you know, why is Batman always a white guy, you know,
Okay.
and that's but why can't we have like an ethical Batman? And
An ethnic Batman.
ethnic Batman. There you go.
Batman's very ethical.
Yeah.
That's all he's got.
But it kind of came down to, you know what, he needed to come down from that white privilege type of family because that's part of him as a core. It's part of his family history.
Oh, I see what you're
and
saying.
you wouldn't have the same Batman because any other race growing in America at that time.
At that time, wouldn't have had it.
Yeah, you know, it had to be someone with white privilege that grew up and was rich because it's really, there's no way other to find that. You're making a different character completely if you go down that route.
I can see what you're saying. That is part of the character entwined. I think the one way you could get around it, though, you could easily have like a black Robin
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like
Well,
Terry
he was
McGinnis,
supposed to
dude.
be.
If they ever really do a Batman Beyond movie,
Terry
they could do
McGinnis.
whatever they want with that character.
Exactly.
And I think fans would be down.
I'd be down for that.
I just want a Batman Beyond movie.
Yeah, that's it. Just
I've
give
been
me
waiting
Batman
for
Beyond,
years.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Robin in the sequel to Batman Returns with
Yeah.
Burton, he was supposed to be black.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, he really was. They had concept designs and everything up for him.
That would have been
It would have
interesting.
been great.
Man, there's some terrible scenes of Robin in Batman Forever.
Oh, in both
Some,
of them.
well, yeah. Oh.
I mean, it's. We'll go over those one day. I tried watching Batman Forever recently, and about 15, 20 minutes in, I was just like, all right, babe, we have to turn this off. Like, this is...
I mean, I can only watch it because it's bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, if I'm
yeah.
in the mood for a bad movie, then I'd be down. Especially because part of my childhood. But if I had never seen it and I tried watching it today, I'd be like, this is gross.
Me and Sam,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say his last name. But we tried watching Batman and Robin one day, and we were just like, dude, we just stay up all night. You know, we have some wine. Let's just destroy it. Let's just get through this
Wow.
movie. Let's just,
need
get
a lot of
trashed and
wine.
watched it. And it got to the point where we're just like, let's just fast forward to this next scene. Let's just fast forward it.
That's
All right,
rough.
We'll fast forward, and we ended in about 30 minutes because we couldn't stand it. The bad
Wow.
credit card. Anyways,
Oh, there's one more thing I want to say before we. I think we're kind of drying up on Batman Begins.
I know.
I
I have two more things.
We haven't talked about Rachel, like the character who's made for these movies. It's
Yeah.
like Batman's love interest,
Oh,
childhood friend.
that's what I was going to bring up
Oh.
next. The love interest in
Yeah.
the trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Batman just keeps on getting screwed over. You know,
Yeah.
like honestly, like every girl.
Well, his part of being Batman is that he can never have a woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just can't. It's like James Bond.
Yeah.
He can't. He
can't.
can't settle down.
Yeah.
It's part of the same character. And I think that I'm sorry, Frank. I'm going to move the stand because it's rubbing against the table. I hope Frank doesn't hate me for it. In this first one, she's Katie Holmes.
Yeah,
Yeah, which I thought that was interesting.
Tom Cruise didn't let her play the second movie.
Yeah, Tom Cruise. When that's
Crazy.
if you missed that part of pop culture history, Tom Cruise was married to Katie Holmes for a while, and apparently was just like a super controlling husband
Yeah.
who like wouldn't let her do projects, and so yeah, she backed out and Maggie Gyllenhaal replaces her in
Which
in Dark
wasn't.
Knight.
I mean, I get it, but I feel bad for that girl because she had to play like basically like, hey, we need you to be this girl,
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know?
That's always got to be kind of an awkward.
and she wasn't as phenomenal. I wasn't as attached to
Oh,
her.
I like Maggie Gyllenhaal more than
Really?
Katie Holmes, but I also just like Maggie Gyllenhaal more than Katie Holmes.
Okay.
So that's part of it, I think.
I'm not a fan of either one, but
Okay.
I mean, I guess it worked out. You know what I mean? But she looks a little bit older, so that time gap I feel should have been pushed a bit more rather than 8 months, a
8
year.
months, 9 months, or whatever it is.
Yeah. But yeah, the love interest, and also, we never get word of a Lazarus pit, and we have Ra's al Ghul. Never in any of them. We talk about immortality and stuff like that.
We have a giant pit.
Yeah, just like mention it. Let's just see it in the background. Like, let's hear some lore about a pit.
Maybe that would have been too far. Like, for Christopher Nolan's universe of being grounded in reality, maybe the pit would have been too much. Like, too supernatural.
That, but it's still, yeah, I guess so.
I mean, I don't know.
I can agree with that completely.
It's not like he didn't know, I guess. Because it definitely seems like Christopher Nolan did his homework.
Yeah. No, definitely.
And they feel like authentic Batman stories. So I'd actually be curious. If we ever make Christopher Nolan, that's the question. Why didn't you do Lazarus Pit, man?
There you go. I'm gonna find out.
Yeah.
I gotta find it's a mission now.
Yeah.
I think that's everything I have to say on Batman Begins. Oh, Victor Zsasz is in it, and I thought that was cool.
When they escape, right?
Yeah,
When they release the people, he's got the scars on it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many little Easter eggs for the people who are just like, like
what's his face from Game of Thrones?
Any level of who's in from Game of Thrones in this one?
What's the kid?
What kid?
He's
There's so many kids in Game of Thrones. A lot of dead kids.
The king. What's his name?
Joffrey.
Joffrey's
in it?
Joffrey's the little blonde boy.
He's the little blonde.
That gets Batman's grapple gun.
That's insane because Littlefinger's in the beginning of Dark Knight Rises. He's the guy on the plane who's like the government agent. He's the one who says like Bane. He's the one who has all that opening dialogue. It's Littlefinger.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
It's so crazy, man. There's a lot of GOT in this thing.
I didn't realize that. That's cool.
Winter's coming.
So in between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, I didn't even take notes on The Dark Knight.
This is so funny. Okay, well, let me just tell you the story because you're gonna laugh at me. I've been trying to watch all of Game of Thrones and I just decided to rewatch the whole thing. Great idea because so much of it is
so good.
Yeah,
so worth
so much
it.
the second time around. But because of all this, I was really pushing back watching these Batman movies, and then I was like, man, how am I gonna watch 7.5 hours of movies because they're all long.
Yeah, they're all like.
So I watched Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises on 1.5 speed.
Oh, wow.
So I watched the whole movie sped up. Like, occasionally I would stop, like, for a really good scene and just watch it in real speed. But I dramatically cut down the watch time because I just watched the entire movie sped up. I put subtitles on and I just watched a whole bunch of it.
Is it still good?
I mean, it was still good. Like, the audio is just, like, quicker, you know what I mean? But I just felt like I had attention deficit disorder or something. I was like, oh my gosh. Dark Knight, though, I only watched, like, half of it. But I watched it last on purpose because I've seen it so many times that the movie's, like, ingrained in my head.
And I kind of started reading like the first like half of not half but quarter of the movie at the script too. I have a script book which is right here on the table. Super cool. My aunt got it for me, like, and there's a cool cover that goes on it, but I just didn't break it. I didn't want to damage it. I've had that since I was like, dude,
it's beautiful.
In high school, I want to say. I've never even like opened it because I was like, it's a script book. Like, why am I gonna ever need this? But like, I'm studying script writing now, so I was just like, I have the Dark Knight script.
That's so cool. Read this. That's so cool how like sometimes things just come around. You know what I mean?
Super great, and it's one of the coolest things I've ever received.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. But in between the two movies, they put out an animated film called Gotham Knight. And it's kind of like the Animatrix. It has 6 short stories by different animators.
That's so funny.
And it mentions like Killer Croc and a bunch of stuff. And it's not officially part of the Nolan like
Nolan universe.
Yeah. But it's very
the NCU.
Yeah. NCU. But it's very in there. It's you know, it says it takes place in between the two films, but they're not making it like official.
Yeah, it doesn't have a stamp of approval.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you mentioned that. We've never talked about this before, but I've also just seen this. And when I watched it, I was like, oh, this is the Animatrix, but for Batman.
Yeah.
And just like the Animatrix, some of them are cool, but a few of them I can't get behind the art style.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what happened to me in the Animatrix, too.
Yeah,
some of them
here.
I'm just like, oh, this one's not that great.
I would love to do a Matrix.
We should do a Matrix convo. The 20th anniversary of the film was like a week ago. We like kind of missed the boat. That should have been it.
What's the year still?
We were going to do a CLE on it.
Oh, really?
And then we ended up doing something else instead. But
The jerk.
Yeah. I mean, there was more pull for it. We should do something on the Matrix. I'm so down for that.
So down. And we should read some of the comics.
We'll have to see how these people like the movie talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little different than what we're usually doing.
But you know what is great, and you really see it in all the films, is Detective Batman. We don't see Detective Batman.
Yeah.
We don't see a lot of it, but we see more than any other film that we've ever had, you know?
Especially at the beginning of Dark Knight Rises, when he finds out that Selina was pulling those fingerprints off his safe.
Fingerprints, and then not mine, hers, or
Yeah.
like not no, she was looking for it, not me. Like you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's so cool.
So Batman too. You could like see it on like
And then talking
panels.
about
Yeah.
compounds and what everything's, it's great. You know,
Yeah.
you see him finding an antidote, like that's total Batman stuff. You know, there's one for you, Gordon, and one to mass produce.
And I feel like that kind of was missing in the early Batman.
oh
movies.
yeah, in all the Batman,
Like in all the
even
other
with-
Batman movies, the computer was just a magical button he pressed. And he's like, "This is what I need."
yeah.
There was never any kind of like Batman trying to
What was
figure
I
out.
watching? Oh, it was Super Friends. Never mind. we tried watching like half an episode of Super Friends.
Yeah.
It's so hard, but they hit something in a fax report came out.
Is that
and
the '60s one or
the 70s?
70s? That's what it was. Okay.
60s was just the Adam West stuff.
Okay.
But you know, okay, one of the key moments in this film that I thought was great was the car chase when Joker has the bazooka and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And that entire scene, there is no music.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. You know,
Yeah.
every other action movie would have put some sort of song
bum,
behind it.
bum,
Yeah, to keep
bum,
that
yeah.
suspense. But just having it raw and just like natural sounds, I was like, oh, this is making it suspenseful because you're just hearing boom.
Something else that we kind of take for granted now, which going back and watching this trilogy after watching all these MCU films, and I haven't watched any of the DC stuff really, but I mean, I can tell just from the trailers, you know, but this one is so not CGI.
Yeah.
The use of CGI is so little and so
And
sparing.
that's what makes it so good.
Yeah.
I think, really, I mean, for a lot of these DC characters, it's total polar opposite to Marvel. I think these DC characters should be shot the way these were done and the way the new Joker movie's being done. And it's just live, you know what I mean? It's not so much CGI. They should give it that real world kind of feel. Because, I mean, when you look at Batman and the crime he fights, that's what they were going for, you
Yeah.
know? We don't need any of that. You shouldn't really need that much CGI. I mean,
Yeah.
Two-Face I get, you know, stuff like that, but...
Yeah, well, I mean, we can get a whole conversation about this, but what I think it is just like we've now keep raising the bar on like what needs to be destroyed in a comic book movie, and it's got to
Yeah.
be some, you
And
know what I
even
mean?
in Snyder stuff, like everything was blown up.
And
you
it's
know?
always a huge like CGI thing because they
Mm-hmm.
just don't have the money for it. But in this trilogy, you get awesome car chases. With a ton of like practical effects, like in that one you're talking about, they actually flip that semi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can't escape how cool that feels. Or the
Yeah.
plane hijacking in Dark Knight
Oh,
Rises.
exactly. You know, both of these films,
incredible, yeah.
Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, have the coolest opening sequences
Mm-hmm.
ever.
Also, kind of like a James Bond movie. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like
totally,
there's always that
totally.
little story at the beginning, and then they jump into it.
Yeah, totally.
Man,
So good stuff.
yeah.
You know, in Dark Knight, man, it nailed it. You know, you can't. You know, we all say that. I mean, the majority of us do say that Mark Hamill's the greatest Joker that has
Okay.
ever been around. But I mean, Heath's Joker made it something else. You know, he finally
Yeah.
put a live action Joker up there that was like, man, this fits. You know,
And
they pulled it off.
I would even argue with someone. I'd say, you know what, man? Like Mark Hamill's got a great Joker voice, but to embody a character like
Yeah.
100% like Heath
And
Ledger
make
did,
it- yeah.
that's crazy.
I mean, it essentially killed him.
Yeah, well, you know, I actually did a little. I was looking into that a little bit
Yeah.
because that's what we always talk about. You
Yeah.
know, that the role is so crazy. But his family said that that he wasn't stressed or depressed when doing Bat. He actually was like in love with the project.
Yeah.
He loved it, but that he's had a problem for decades
Oh,
with
wow.
sleeping pills,
Oh wow.
and his sleeping patterns were a little messed up, and he just like took too many, like out of frustration or
happened.
something.
Yeah.
It's really sad because
It's
he was
crazy.
such a talent.
So much, yeah.
And got an Academy Award for Dark Knight, which
I
is
think he would have got it no matter what. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't after he passed and everything.
it's hard.
but-
It's hard to say, but I think so. It's definitely deserving of it.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
role's incredible. And is that the biggest award a comic book movie's ever gotten? Like, because he got what
Until recent.
supporting actor, right?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know another comic book movie that's even gotten any of the best actor or supporting actor.
Oh,
Like,
that's true.
there's
They've
never been an
gotten-
Oscar win for that.
What did Black Panther and Spider-Verse win? recently?
Spider-Verse won Best Animated Film,
Oh,
which
nice.
is cool, but
Yeah.
how many, like, there's a ton of animated comic
Yeah.
book movies, but Spider-Verse was on a whole nother level,
Yeah.
like, production-wise.
I gotta
And
watch that soon.
It's incredible, dude. I love that movie.
I
We
gotta-
should watch
I
it
gotta
together.
write
Okay.
But I mean, character-wise, like you have Harvey Dent, and
Mm-hmm.
you know the movie takes. You really go. All these movies take you on such a long trip.
Yeah.
You know, you see full evolution in every single character and Batman changes every
Great
single
arcs.
movie.
Great
Yeah.
arcs, yeah.
Just seeing how Harvey acts and presents himself and what he's trying to do, and even how Gotham's changed, how they have people dressing up. You know,
Yeah.
what's the difference between you and me? I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Yeah.
It's like it's so great. Batman jumping at the first fight scene and landing right on Scarecrow's van. Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome move. There is one thing that I was like, how did that happen? But during the Joker, whenever he infiltrates the party and he throws Rachel out the building,
Yeah.
and then they just land on the car.
Oh, yeah.
Like how?
That doesn't work out. Well, yeah, it's one of those just like movie things, I guess. I don't know. That is kind
I don't know if he shot a grapple, if I
Yeah.
missed it, or maybe the cape helped, but the cape looked pretty crazy. That's my only like, what the heck type of moment though.
You know, I don't know how many like moments stood out to me as strange in this movie. There was a couple times in Batman Begins where he just like leapt up through the air. Like it didn't look like he was using his grapple gun. Like that part was kind of weird to me. But you know, I think one of the things, because Dark Knight is the one that has the name and like the sacred space. I think part of it is some of the scenarios they get into that movie are insane. Like the ferry scene where they're trying to decide, and
so good.
It puts everyone like in like you're watching the movie and you're like, man, well, what would I do in this situation?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really places you in like a lot of like, whoa, what decision is right? You know?
I don't know any other comic book movie that has
Puts the pressure
something
on the
that
crowd,
delivers
too.
like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
dang, I don't even know what would be close. It's ridiculous, but I think that's what makes this movie like really lasting. And we haven't even talked about too, but like Lucius gets way more of a role in the second movie.
Yeah.
And it's Morgan Freeman.
And he just kills it in every film.
Christopher Nolan had ridiculous cast, man.
And this again, we do take Batman out of Gotham and he goes to Hong Kong, and that scene itself is just so cool.
That one's great.
You know, I had to read the production notes on the costume and everything, but you know, Batman Begins, the suit, for one. It was very 1980-90, where he couldn't move his neck or anything. He had to move his whole body. So they give him this other suit, and what they were imagining for the cape was that Batman always kind of wears like a backpack type of thing, and the cape goes in and out depending on what he's doing. Because when he's on the Bat Pod, his cape is a lot shorter. But then when he's, you know, through the air and everything, he's I mean, it's a widespread full cape and everything and all that. So there's a scene where he doesn't even look like he's wearing a cape. It was just like that backpack on him.
That's interesting. Yeah,
I thought that was cool. And I was like, you know, that makes sense. If Batman had a little backpack and then it just provided his cape, but in different scenarios, like it can't always be 12 feet long. Because there's even spots where he's standing on a statue and it goes twice the size of him. You know, he's just letting it drape at one point.
Yeah.
So cool stuff. Cool effort in the cape. Forgotten moment in Batman Begins, but his first encounter with the Scarecrow in the apartment, too awesome. You know, getting set on fire, and it's his first moment with like a super villain, you know, and having to call Alfred to come help him.
Yeah,
and
Scarecrow delivers on him too.
Yeah, great.
I don't think there's a single character that's not good in this whole trilogy. Like everyone who's cast, everyone who plays these villains, or like Alfred, Michael Caine. They're just all incredible, man.
Insane, yeah.
It's such a good
even
rounding
the
out.
minor characters, like you have the one dude that figures out like his money is disappearing, and he's just like, I want like this much I want 10 million for every year of my life, you know?
Yeah.
And then Morgan Freeman's like, you're gonna frame the guy that beats up guys every single night. But it's like, you know, that's so cool that they even thought of that. That's you know, of course someone's gonna look into Bruce Wayne's accounting and be like, hey, dude, your money's just like going in weird spots. Like, this doesn't make sense, you know?
Which, speaking of Bruce Wayne, we haven't even talked about this, but man, his Bruce Wayne is so good.
So good.
And I love when he can like turn it on and off. Like in Dark Knight when he crashes the car on purpose.
Yeah.
And
brilliant.
It's just like, oh, you know, oops. I'm
Yeah.
just like a drunk
Should I go
playboy
to
party.
hospital?
Or,
You know?
yeah,
Yeah,
like just a helpless child or something.
It's awesome. Yeah,
really
he
cool.
really has a much better Bruce Wayne than Keaton, for sure. Keaton had a different type of Bruce Wayne. You know what I mean?
I feel like you can feel a little bit of his Patrick Bateman too, especially in Batman Begins. He kind of has that persona.
We see him do push-ups in every movie.
Yeah, the push-ups, dude. As soon as he went into that push-up thing, I was like, oh, is this American Psycho again? This is so funny.
Two-Face itself, they nailed it.
Yeah.
Like, beautiful, great motives. I mean, that's the thing. All their motives made sense. And
very believable characters.
Yeah. The double-sided coin, it was his father's lucky. I mean, everything had a little explanation behind it that kind of clicked. Man, what else? We had the Bat Pod, which was phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's cool because each of these movies introduces like a new Batman vehicle.
Yeah, which is how it should be. I think.
Yeah,
You know, I think that's awesome. He has
don't
such
give it
a
all
wide
away.
range.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Really definitive, and it being a year later, and just knowing that he's cleaned up crime bosses itself.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just kind of this small group that's alive at this point is so cool. You know.
Yeah.
It really gives you a definition of Batman at that point. This is where about the time he would have started picking up a Robin, which I think is interesting.
Which is weird that they could have brought it in. I wouldn't even really count it in Dark Knight Rises.
What are your thoughts on this whole Robin?
Well, yeah, let's get into this whole thing for some Dark Knight Rises. On the Robin thing, I thought it was really cool that he like found out who Batman was,
and it makes sense.
Very Tim Drake, you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
He just solved it. And his name is Robin. It's not Drake, is it? Blake.
No, Blake. Yeah.
Blake.
There's a play on everything on that point.
Yeah, but it kind of made
He's
him.
a hothead like Jason.
Yeah.
You know, but he's also brilliant, kind of like Tim and Dick. You know, he has like the heart. He's gonna have the heart of Dick, and the brains of Tim, and the anger of Jason.
Yeah, it's a little mashup of all the Robins. I kind of wish that they hadn't named him Robin.
I know.
At the very end of the movie, she's like, "You should go by your full name."
That is a
Robin.
Yeah, it's like,
wow.
Why couldn't you say Richard or something like give us
Yeah.
more of a reference to a Robin at that point. And I never liked that in a generality, like naming him that. But I did like how even Dick Grayson was a detective for the GCPD for a long time. So bringing that in, I thought that was super cool. His character, when I was a kid, I hated him.
Yeah.
I despised it all. But rewatching it, I was like, you know what? This does make sense. And Batman said in Batman Begins is that, you know, he needs to, as a man, he could be broken and forgotten, but as a symbol, it could be everlasting. So he's done. He's done his time as Batman, but now he's pushing it to make that symbol everlasting. And I was like, that's cool. You're introducing the Bat family. You're giving that legacy kind of feel to it as well. And now I kind of see how great of a move that was.
Yeah. When I saw the movie in theaters, I was frustrated because I was like, what? He's not even going to get to be Robin in the movie.
Yeah.
But in reality, that's not the function he serves.
No,
it's that Bruce is done and he knows it has to live on. So he gives him the information on how to find the Batcave.
Someone else that feels like the same pain, you know, and he tells him, I feel the same pain you are, you know, and I think they have that connection.
Really good moments there with those guys. I think it's interesting that Dark Knight Rises is the low point, where traditionally in a trilogy, the middle is the low point, like Empire Strikes Back or something.
Yeah.
In this one, we see like the opposite. Like it's like origin story. It's like 0.5, 1, and then Dark Knight Rises is like the second and third act all put together, which is really cool. The plane scene, we already talked about this a little bit, but the first opening scene of this movie when they hijack that plane in air, it's like, what's ridiculous. My biggest complaint about the movie, though, and it's so apparent in the first scene, is the audio mix on Bane's voice is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane. It's turned up.
It's turned up, and it's right at the front.
Yeah.
And in that first scene, they're in this loud airplane, and everyone's like...
And then he's
like, super muffled.
clear
He's
as
like,
day.
"Hey, I am Bane." It's like, whoa, this is way too much.
How do you like the Bane voice and Bane as a character?
I hate it. I hate the Bane voice.
Yeah.
I think it's dumb. I thought it was dumb when I saw it in theaters. I think Tom Hardy looks ripped, and he looks like a good Bane. I'm down.
Yeah.
I think the voice is just too much.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I see how it's kind of overdone in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're right, the mix in it, watching it, I was just like, why is this so prominent? Like, does he have a microphone, like a speaker coming out of his mouth?
Yeah, it gives you that whole thing, because the whole movie he's super loud. It's like, is he supposed to be
even
loud?
in the sewers and everything.
It's so weird. It also...
You're not discreet at all.
I mean, Bane has always been a Mexican character.
Yes.
And it just seems really weird that they made him this, like, Eastern European guy. Like, randomly. And for what reason? There was no reason why he had to be cast that way.
None.
So, but Tom Hardy's performance is really good.
Yes.
I like him in the role. And the voice thing, I can get over it. The second time watching the movie, I've gotten over a lot of the stuff that I was hating on the first time. It let me enjoy the movie more.
For sure, yeah.
But to me, Bane, Tom Hardy, that's on the side. Like, Anne Hathaway's Catwoman is great, dude.
Awesome, right? Yes,
like,
exactly.
She's got the delivery of, like...
Her first scene, you know, her acting is just so on point. She plays, like, 3 characters in one moment.
And her mannerism, too. Like, the way she kind of, like, walks around, she's got like, a cat-like quality. It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
She's got that, like, agility and gymnastic kind of thing you'd expect from
Yeah.
Catwoman.
It's
So
and
that was really cool.
she fits perfectly. And even her mindset, everything. Also, I know we're straying away from Bane. We'll get back to him. But the character that was with her, the blonde girl,
Yeah.
Holly. She looks like Holly from Batman Year One,
Mm.
and they don't name her at all. They don't give her a definitive, description or
You're
anything.
right. Yeah.
But it has to be Holly, and Holly's been referenced in other comics, even in the Tom King current run.
Yeah.
But it's cool that they threw little stuff like that in
Little
there.
tiny
You
things,
know?
yeah.
Yeah. But Bane, yep, not. And just like the Lazarus Pit didn't exist in this trilogy, there was no Venom. And I thought that was interesting. But then I'm like,
Yeah.
is like what's feeding him in the mouth? Is that like some sort of toxin or something to make him bigger or more agility or something?
I don't
like,
think that he has any toxin thing at all. I
Just
think we're just
will.
supposed to believe that he's just another huge, strong guy like Batman.
Yeah.
And maybe again, it's Nolan wanted to be as
Grounded as
possible. Like everything has to be based in reality somewhat. Like, but that is, I kind of miss like Bane being all juiced up.
Yeah.
And,
Not
and
like
the
Batman and
luchador
Robin.
mask and everything. It doesn't have to be that over the top. You can change some
Which
stuff.
honestly, like, the Batman and Robin Bane makes sense in a big ways. Like his appearance, the way he looked, they nailed it in a big way, but they
Yeah.
just made him like a dumb character.
Well, the surrounding movie is also the problem.
Yeah.
Like, they did okay on that
Yeah.
character design, but then everything around him.
Terrible.
Yeah.
But we've said this before too, is that Bane is, for some reason, Bane's not my favorite villain ever. He really isn't.
Yeah.
I've never really cared too
He's
much.
he's like a B tier Batman villain.
But for some reason, he's like the one that always defeats Batman. We have Nightfall.
Yeah.
We have what was another one that I was just talking about? The Tom King run is all
Yeah.
about Bane, but there's another one where Bane basically takes down Batman in some way. And they just make him so intimidating and like the only one. I guess it's because it's Batman's ferocity versus Bane's, like his muscle and his will, and then you have this big giant character, and that's where he could really put his like power into, and it shows they're equal in strength in a big way. But I don't see what's so crazy about Bane ever.
Yeah,
I
can kind of see that. He's not super prominent. And you know what else? I'd say Scarecrow's cool, but he's not the villain you would think to choose. It's weird. All the popular villains are kind of shoved in. Like Joker and Two-Face are two guys who could have their own movies.
Yeah,
but I sort of like that about this trilogy. You get something
a flavor
little,
of everything.
Yeah, you get
and it
something a little more
changes
fresh.
every movie.
Yeah.
But still circles back to Ra's, which I love because I love Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite villains ever.
And it ties a nice bow on the end of this whole thing. When you find out that, I forgot her name that she gives.
Is Tate?
Yeah, Tate.
Yeah.
She's really Talia al Ghul, who's been like working, with Bane this whole time to fulfill the plan that they had in Batman Begins. So it's all come full circle. It's really, when you watch all three of them, it's just like a perfect story almost. It's really cool. And I don't know, it took me so long to kind of realize it as a whole unit. I even said on a podcast a while ago that, it's really just Dark Knight, but I kind of changed my mind on this. I think you have to watch the whole trilogy to really like soak it in.
Yeah,
and get the
I
full
think that's
story.
what happened with me this time.
Yeah.
Watching them real spaced out before, it felt like pieces. But
Yeah.
it's like reading a full comic book storyline
Yeah.
altogether. Like, I see why this was so rich and fulfilling, hands down, even compared to the Burton movies, which I adore, this wins. This totally wins. Like, I totally see it
great
now.
films, man.
I feel bad for ever speaking down against it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's so good. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
What's cool is also
see if I
seeing
have anything here.
as a kid, I really hated that there was an 8-year gap and that he quit being Batman because of a girl. Because she essentially, it felt like he stopped because she died.
Yeah,
but
he was heartbroken or something.
Yeah, and seeing it again, I was like, there's so many other reasons why he was like, I'm done. Like, I did what I needed to do, and I guess things stabilized after that in Gotham, during that time. But, super similar, I guess, to whatever happened in Frank Miller's storyline. Took that 10-year break and came back. He knew he couldn't escape it. But Wayne Manor, seeing it at the beginning of Batman Begins, seeing it destroyed, seeing it rebuilt in Dark Knight, and then right away it's fully rebuilt and gorgeous, like brick for brick, like he said, in Dark Knight Rises. I thought that was cool. I'm glad that they kept that, consistency with
which
the
is
world
interesting
evolving.
because it kind of parallels and shadows Batman. Like the same thing happens with Batman that happens with the house. Him returning is one of my favorite scenes with Michael
Oh
Caine
yeah.
when he just tells him like, I can't do this again. Like if you want to be Batman, you got to do this on your own.
Yeah.
And it's just like so emotional. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. And then of course the end of the movie. So Alfred talks about at the beginning that
He's buried enough Waynes.
yeah, he's buried enough Waynes, and that he's taken this European vacation while he was gone, and he keeps hoping that he would have seen young Master Wayne across some table with a wife doing his own thing, and they
Would've
wouldn't
been
talk
happy.
or anything. And that's how the movie ends.
Yeah.
Like Batman and Catwoman
I
they both clear their story. You know
I
what I
love
mean?
how you wound up with Catwoman too.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was great because it's back into that Bat lore where
Yeah.
he should wind up with Catwoman. It's his fantasy. It's what he wants. You know, no matter how different she is. And there's some other characters that are really just been awesome, like Commissioner Gordon.
Oh yeah.
Best commish ever. I mean, because in the previous movies, he was just such a joke, a chubby fat guy, that didn't ever do anything. He wasn't tough. I mean, we didn't get to see much of the Gordon in Batman versus Superman or Justice League, but I mean, this was the best Gordon. I feel like he had the stash, he had the attitude, he had the experience, he had the willingness and the want that Batman had as well, and it also kept Batman in line. How Commissioner Gordon does.
What's his name? He's like such a famous actor, and I can't think of it right now.
He was the shoveler too, wasn't he? No, he wasn't. That's somebody else. He was in
Gary
Dracula.
Oldman.
Gary
Oldman. Yeah, he's such a famous actor. And I had it on the tip of my tongue, and I couldn't think of what it was. Yeah, he kills it, man.
Kills it.
And Christopher Nolan just had such a high tier cast across the board, just all stars.
Yeah,
it's too much, man.
Also, there's Daggett, and I know Daggett's probably not the most familiar name in lore, but Daggett Industries is the same one that created Clayface.
Oh,
They're
okay.
the ones that run
yeah,
those
yeah,
chemical
I've heard
stuff.
this.
And
Yeah,
Daggett's always been prominent in the comics as a industry
this is part of the
competition.
world. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Cool stuff. You kind of again that no man's land feel where you have the cops versus like the madness of Gotham there in the end, and they charge each other. Scarecrow's running stuff, and it looks like Arkham City.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And some of those graphics are just insane. So cool. What else, man? Jeez. I think I've really hit my note. I know we didn't talk about Dark Knight a lot.
Yeah, and I also feel like that's the one people know though the most. And what else do we need to say that hasn't been said about Heath Ledger and just the perfect pacing? And it's just incredible. That movie's just incredible.
Phenomenal film.
Yeah,
and it makes sense. And I love how they turned Batman into a vigilante at the end. How like they're hunting him down. That's too cool. Like you really hit so many main points of his purpose in the comics in these films.
And the next movie, it picks up so much on that. Like the consequences of him killing or not killing Dent, but making it seem like he killed Dent.
And it's always those lies that always get uncovered and mess everything up.
Yeah, you know what? All I gotta say is like, it seems like comic book movies have become so formulaic in just. And not just in Marvel, I think they're all the same thing. There's a big baddie who wants to destroy the world, and we're gonna do a little bit of jokes and whatever, and then we're gonna have a huge CGI battle at the end.
And this is so refreshing.
Yeah, it's like smart and organic and
a film
completely original. Yeah, it doesn't feel like a comic book movie. It just feels like a great movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever get something like this again. I'm going to be honest. Like, when you think about just all the different series of comic book movies, there hasn't been one that's been this succinct, this tonally similar across a series.
For this Joker film, though.
It could be really cool, but, a one-off movie's a one-off movie. Like, Nolan was just like, bam, here's a trilogy.
Well, it didn't start off that way, though.
I guess that's true, but...
Nolan just had a pitch for one film.
Yeah.
And that was a Batman origin film.
But, I mean, he managed to make something that's a total story. It's a complete story.
And it closes, it starts, and it ends. Yeah, you're right. 100% right. You do get the whole world of Batman at that point.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah, great.
Solid. Like, if
it's
you
great,
just,
man.
Yeah, so good. It opens up doors to some of the great comics, even Killing Joke in a big way, too. In that kind of origin-esque way, how he changes. You kind of have a multiple choice origin in Killing Joke, just like how you do here. Man. And then when you compare, I mean, Joker has, apparently there's like 2 Jokers still in the DC universe. Because...
Well, aren't they abandoning the cinematic universe? I thought they said they're
Jared
just going to
Leto
do solo
and Ben
films.
Affleck were just seen on set of Birds of Prey.
What?
Birds of Prey. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what they're
just
doing.
Stop,
I don't know
everyone.
what's going on, but
Just stop.
I mean, and then we have this Joker one coming out. Yeah,
I thought Ben Affleck said he was done.
that's what I thought too. But he was just
Maybe
seen on the set.
maybe he was like in a contract or
Yeah,
something.
has to do one more appearance.
We have you for one more appearance. Get into
Yeah.
Birds of Prey.
Yeah, exactly. We'll knock it out here.
That's so
We'll
gross.
find out.
Well, I don't know. I really have high hopes for Joker, and it seems like it might be tonally similar to the Dark Knight trilogy.
I think so, and I think it's going to be that low-level street crime that we need and we want.
I think it's going to be Killing Joke. Like, I'm almost positive that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's what I feel. Maybe not the whole Batman side of it, but literally like the Joker origin side of it.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Dang, great stuff.
Great stuff,
We
dude.
really hit it too.
I feel like we've got it covered. What didn't we cover? You let us know. If you've been listening this far, what did we forgot to mention about?
Soundtrack was great.
Yeah, Hans Zimmer.
Although you don't get the same. The thing I had a problem with this soundtrack compared to other superhero movies is that it's not like a theme song you could like jingle in your head. You know what I mean?
You're
Like,
gonna get me off on a whole tangent, dude. But Hans Zimmer is the reason why we don't have themes now.
Yeah.
Because his scores were so popular. He did Inception too with Christopher Nolan, and that stupid wham that became every movie trailer and every soundtrack. And suddenly everything was just like,
Yeah.
there's no themes.
I want a theme.
Same thing as Man of Steel.
I know.
Also
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't like. He makes it's cool to listen to in the background, but you can't escape like the Batman theme.
Yeah, like
know
you,
what I mean?
think of like the Danny Elfman theme
Yeah.
or all that type of stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Super great. Danny Elfman put theme songs in Justice League, which was like, thank you. You know. Man, I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Any
Well,
pull list?
I was gonna say my pull list is super short this week, everyone. It's just Infinity Gauntlet.
Nice.
I picked up Infinity Gauntlet to read it in preparation for an Infinity podcast, an Infinity cast.
Infinity Cast.
We're
Ooh.
gathering all the stones. We're gonna snap
what
our
we do with
fingers
them.
and destroy half the podcast. Yeah, I just want to get into it, and man, it's way bigger than I thought it was. Way bigger than I thought it
I'm
was.
curious about because we want to cover Infinity Gauntlet
And
War and Crusade.
Yeah.
So I haven't read half of those. Well, 3/4 of them.
I'm gonna get on it. I'm
Two-thirds
just gonna
of
get
them.
on my reading. What about you? Anything on your pull list?
Man, I finally caught up on some reading, dude.
Oh, okay. Hit
Dude,
it
I'm
to us,
on
man.
issue 6 of Low, which is great. I can't wait to knock the rest out.
And I just gotta tell you, man, 6 is like baby steps. Like
Yeah.
by 10, the story is just
So excited.
ridiculous.
And it's on like 23 or 24
yeah,
right now.
it just keeps ramping up,
I'm
dude.
super
It's a
excited.
great book.
Rick Remender's done some great stuff. I mean, I think he did Tokyo Ghost. Yeah, he did.
I have some of the early issues of Tokyo Ghost too.
I've only read volume 1 of it. I want to read
Yeah.
volume 2, but I'm such a fan of a bunch of his stuff. I keep finding
cool.
out, you know.
It's great worlds.
Yeah,
Very
definitely.
Blade Runner too, actually, which is weird.
He does so good at his own. I mean, Black Science. That's another one. Deadly Class is a TV show now. He just does so good at creating your own work, and I just can't wait. You know, I haven't met him. I would love to meet him and ask him some questions. I did read one of your animes or mangas.
Dang, mangas. Yeah, you gotta get the
Mangas,
terms
there
right,
you
man.
go. Neon Genesis.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah.
Evangelion.
Evangelion.
Yeah.
Interesting. I will definitely. You know, I've been watching this podcast called Cartoon Kayfabe, and it's was it Jim Root and Ed? I feel so bad. Ed something, but they're dude. What is his name? He's doing X-Men: The Grand Design right now.
Okay.
And that's one of the coolest X-Men books out right now. It's him drawing and writing it, and he basically rewrites the X-Men history.
Whoa, okay.
And right now they're at like the Phoenix Saga, pretty much. And
Whoa,
it's
he's
so,
just redoing the whole thing?
Yeah,
That's cool.
it's so good. And Ed Piskor.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
And dude, that is like deep diving, like nerd. Like they go over Wizard magazines in their YouTubes and everything, and just it's right up my alley. Where I
That's
just
cool.
want to hear stuff.
Yeah.
Covering like indie comics and just all this deep nerd stuff in history. And they were going over Akira and all this other stuff. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, I mean, they're right. Like, a comic is a comic, and I'm going to open my doors a bit more, get some storytelling ideas and stuff like that. So picked up Akira. Going to read Akira. Really excited
Nice.
for it. But I did catch up on all of Scott Snyder and James Tinian's current Justice League. Great stuff. Dude, I mean, it starts off on a big bang, and then we do some great Aquaman storyline that's in the middle of it, Drowned Earth, and now we're doing some great multi-dimensional Grant Morrissey sixth dimension fighting and everything, and it's
Okay.
just so good. It's super dense, but you know, I just finished watching all of Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and
Okay.
it's a direct influence for these stories. You have
Oh,
the Legion
cool.
of Doom, and you have Brainiac and Lex Luthor fusing together, but so good, so good. They're on issue 21, just came out today. I
Okay.
want to say. So I can't wait. I'm on issue 20. Like, I mean, I just fully caught up. Caught up on Batman. Caught up on Green Lantern, Grant Morrison's run, which is
Whoa.
crazy.
You've been
Just-
doing a lot of reading.
Yeah. Caught up on Heroes in Crisis. And oh man, just Tom King and all these guys for GC are just killing it right now. Just good storytelling. Just Detective Comics 1000 just came out.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
do
I
a
haven't read
review.
my copy yet. We're going to get to it.
There's some great stuff in there. Some really fun stories. Tom King's last story in it, awesome.
Oh,
Kevin
cool.
Smith's story, super good. Jim Lee did the art for it. You'll like it, I promise. Warren Ellis did a story, phenomenal. All of them, just so good. Just great Batman stuff. All the variant covers are great. We'll do a review, and I got a
down.
bunch of variant
I'm down.
covers.
Yeah, we can show them off.
But man, what else? Right now, I'm finishing Low from what I'm borrowing from you up to issue
Yeah.
10. And I'm also doing Justice League Odyssey, Justice League Dark, and I gotta do the Infinity War stuff now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's big reading.
A lot of reading.
Hey, so if you want to read it with us, we're going to try and get this stuff out right around when Endgame comes out.
Yeah,
And we'll have some more Endgame related content coming your way as well.
definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we're gonna watch Shazam and Hellboy.
Yeah.
And
So many
Game of
movies
Thrones,
coming
yeah.
out. Oh my gosh, yeah.
A lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
But I mean, great stuff. I mean, we're gonna be doing Batman stuff all year. It's his 80th anniversary.
Why not?
We'll just keep on jumping on it. You
Yeah.
know, we'll hit some bigger storylines. Some
Let's watch all of Batman Beyond.
Oh, I just watched it all.
I
We'll
watched
talk
all
about
of it like a
It's
year ago.
So
Okay.
good. Yeah,
We're on it.
Set. Anything else?
I'm all good, man. Game of Thrones has consumed my life. That's
Yeah.
why I haven't done anything else. I've just been trying to
Exactly.
catch up real quick. I got 2 seasons left and 2 weeks to watch it, so we'll see what happens. But hey, thanks
You
to
could do
everyone.
it in a night.
All right, dedicated night. Thanks for checking it out, everybody. We appreciate it. Let us know what you want us to talk about. You know what I mean? Or we'll just keep picking Batman.
Yeah, exactly. Forever.
Tell us what Batman
Dude,
you want us to
what
talk
is-
about. There's
yeah.
plenty, so we can use the suggestions.
Well, that's it. Thanks
Yeah.
for visiting Apollo City Comics. Have a great one.